To lead others, one must first learn to lead themselves. This is no doubt a challenging thing to do. It's not easy to set yourself apart from the crowd. It opens you up to social ostracism, to the perennial gaze of other people, to criticism, ostracism, and social denigration. But it is something that's necessary if one wants to truly live life on their own terms. It requires this sort of detachment from the criticism, the judgment of other people, and this is something that it often does not come intuitive to us because we are naturally social animals. You know, we are naturally conscious to the gaze, the watchful gaze of other people, because how we stand in the tribe, in the esteem of others, is very integral to, you know, how easy our lives are going to be or how comfortable they are. You know, if you're constantly being attacked, shunned, rejected by other people, that makes for a very difficult way to live. And you know, often we become much more conscious of other people, how we stand within the social group. You know, approaching, you know, adolescence to teenage years. That's why they're often so difficult psychologically. Why we often get very self-conscious of ourselves, of our self-presentation, and we become conditioned to value quite highly the opinions of other people. But often when this sort of conditioning goes into excess to the point where we feel ourselves to be masking our true personalities, we find ourselves operating in a variety of masks, and none of the masks really truly represent who we are. You know, we find ourselves sort of living in this kind of this perpetual contradiction that is very psychologically distressing. You know, even if we do achieve some degree of sort of social esteem for these performances that we do, you know, they still contribute to our sort of original lack of self-worth and self-identity, because what is being accepted by other people is not really us. It's an image of us. It's a constructed, deliberate image. And it, you know, it continues the cycle of the sense that who we are prior to the mask, prior to the images that we create, it's not worthy of regard. It's not worthy of, you know, esteem, which is why we have to hide it, conceal it behind a variety of masks. And an important thing to think about in this sort of approach to life, which relies on creating these sorts of social masks, is that you're not really living in true alignment with who you actually are. You know, you're living according to the judgment, the gaze of other people. And if you're living according to such conditions, then you are truly a prisoner to them. You know, you're restricting yourself and not allowing yourself to truly express what you think, what you feel, and who you are. You're not leading yourself. You're being led by the opinions, often the superficial and, you know, unimportant opinions of other people, opinions of people who you shouldn't really care about. You know, it's important to obviously hold those, be held, you know, to high standard and people who you care most dearest about. But if you're caring about the opinions of strangers you'll never meet, of people who don't really care for your life and how you're doing, then the amount of cognitive energy you're expending on trying to conform to this kind of other. Sorry, there's a fly on my arm. Apologies. yeah, all that energy you're expending to try and conform to this sort of this expectation, it's wasted energy. It tires you, it fatigues you, and it's energy that would be better expended elsewhere. You know, your attention would be better expended elsewhere. And so, when I talk about sort of leading yourself, I see it as a way of sort of treating your life as your message fundamentally. And you want to sort of cultivate that message in a way that feels appropriate to you, that reduces needless suffering, that reduces needless rumination. And it's a way of approaching life that isn't totally indifferent and shunning of other people's views and gazes, but it's one that has a certain degree of healthy detachment. Healthy detachment is the key thing here. It's important to be conscious of other people's views and perspectives, because often they are a useful feedback for how you should orient in the world. But when we obsess over it, when we get so highly strung out on this pleasing this imaginary audience in our head, we find ourselves trapped. And it's important to look at your behavior, look at your consciousness, look at your attention, and see what sort of ways, what sort of places is it getting trapped? Is it getting parasitized by things? Because there's many things out in this world that will parasitize your attention, that will try and conform you to a particular vision of living, that will try and gaslight you, bullshit you, and deceive you. And a lot of this is marketing. A lot of this is the advertisements, the propaganda on our TV screens, in our TV shows and movies. There's a vast influx of bullshit. And maybe this has always been the case, but it's especially pernicious with our technological devices. As we scroll through our Instagram feeds and whatnot, we'll be immersed in an array of sort of social manipulation that we often don't recognize as that, And the first step in obviously freeing ourselves and liberating our consciousness from such means of deception is to first become aware of it, is to first bring it to our foreground, to first notice when we're, say, in a particular situation, when we're talking to people or doing anything, when we feel that sort of that emotion of resistance come up, when you feel yourself self-censoring, when you're recognizing that you're saying something you don't really believe in just to give lip service to something, to appease some person, And often when we're appeasing a person by lying to them, essentially, they're not really a true comrade or friend or cooperator in that sense, because true friendship comes when you are able to both peel off that mask and both accept each other for who you are, just as you are. You're not accepting a performance. You're just being like a child. Like, think about the simplicity of a child's life, in the playfulness of a child. There's no agenda. There's no pursuit of instrumental gain. There's just doing stuff for the sake of doing it, for the joy, for the fun of it. And there's no fun in living a performance, in living a facade. There's just suffering, and often needless suffering. And, and I'm not saying that one should be unapologetically authentic and rigidly themselves all the time in all social contexts. It is useful to be a bit of a chameleon sometimes when it is sort of useful and pragmatic, But you should never lose yourself in the identities. You should never lose. Oh, it's fucking fly, man. Yeah, you should never lose yourself in the mask that you wear. and you should always remember that they are masks. When you are, wear the mask consciously, not unconsciously, and do not be unconsciously led by the often unnecessary opinions of others. You know, they're not care about the opinions of people who care about you, basically, and understand that sort of leading yourself, living authentically as you feel yourself to be, it will open you up to weird gazes, you know, maybe backhanded comments, some kind of social reprisal, often from people who are offended by your authenticity because it reminds them on a deep level of the demons that lie within themselves, of the ways in which they feel sort of trapped. But understand that that's just the yoga of liberating yourself from the cages that we construct for ourselves. You know, that's, you will naturally sort of come into contact with those sorts of things, and that's not a bad or good thing. In fact, it's a good thing, really. So it gives you an opportunity to see what sort of reactionary forces within yourself occur when you get some kind of social criticism for who you are. You know, it's you know, they are the obstacles that are necessary to be overcome in order to cultivate that confidence in your message and your direction. So we shouldn't veer away from it. You should really lean into it, because they are necessary. They're very necessary. So I hope that's been useful. Enjoy the rest of your day.